Okay, and welcome to the Maya Basics series. So, in this series of tutorials, we will be covering Maya Basics. Um, okay, so let's start with basic navigation. If you look down here in this little window, this will not be in Maya. This is something I've added to help you to see what buttons I'm pressing: left button, right button, middle mouse button, control, alt, shift, etc. So look down here for this window so you can see what buttons I'm pressing, and that should help you. So, okay, first I'm going to go up here to the Poly Modeling tab. And for now, I am going to make a cube. If you want to do what I just did, your Maya may be set up with, when you click, it places a standard sized 1 unit by 1 unit by 1 unit object in the middle of your grid. If you want to change that, you can go up to Polygon Primitives and go to Cube or Sphere, any of them. And once you're in this Polygon Primitives, go down here to Interactive Creation and turn that on. If I turn that off, that's what you had. So once again, if you want to turn that on, go to Create and go to Polygon Primitives and turn on Interactive Creation. And then that way you can make it whatever size you want. Okay, so here's where we begin the navigation. If you hold down Alt and your middle mouse button, you will be able to pan around your scene. Once again, that's Alt, middle mouse button, as shown in this little window down here. Alt, middle mouse button, Alt, middle mouse button, Alt, middle mouse button. Your mouse wheel, which it's not showing the mouse wheel scrolling, but if you scroll the mouse wheel in and out, you're going to get in and out. If you hold down Alt and right mouse button, you can also go in and out. And then if you hold down Alt and left mouse button, you rotate around. So once again, Alt, left mouse button, rotate, Alt, middle mouse button, pan, middle mouse button, scroll, will zoom in and out, or Alt, right mouse button, and that will also scroll in and out. And then if you want to move your object, hit W on your keyboard. That's going to bring up this manipulator, and it will constrain to whichever axis you pull on, which would be, this would be your Z axis, this would be your X axis, this would be your Y axis, okay, which is shown down here. If you rotate around, you will see those little axes down here rotate. So that way you know which direction you're going. If you want to move it in all directions all at the same time, select that middle handle, and you can go in all directions, left, right, up, down, forward, back, whichever way you want. So that is W to move. Then we have E on your keyboard. Once again, hit E to rotate. Now right now my rotate is constrained to an angle. So let's turn that off. Double click on the rotate tool. It'll bring up the rotate settings. We'll turn step snap off. I'm going to drag that over to the side here for a second. So now this rotates freely. And once again, it's the same thing. Grab it along whatever axis you want, and it'll rotate along that axis. Or you can go right here in the middle and rotate it along all of the axes depending on what you want to do. So usually it's best to keep it constrained to a specific axis so you can be a little more precise. Okay, so if I wanted to snap my axes to, say, 10-degree increments, I go over here to the step snap, turn it to absolute, and now when I rotate my object, it stays 10 degrees. So we'll turn that off. If we go into any of these tools and double click, you will get this options menu, which will give you different options, obviously. The most useful being when you have your move, rotate, and scale. So if we want to step snap our move to every 10 units, okay, now when I move, it snapped to 10 units. Okay, so, and I can set this to 50 units or whatever I want. And if you turn that off, now it's whatever you want. Scale, same thing. You can have it scale 10x. R is scale. So if I pull that, oh, there we go. For scale, we have to have it set to relative. So there it's twice the size. There it's twice the size, twice the size, twice the size. So absolute does not work for scale. So, okay. So it's left click to select, obviously. Okay, now, if you left click, select your object, right click. If you right click, you can select the object components. So if you go into edge, that move gizmo is still there, or manipulator. Gizmo, manipulator, same thing. It's also the same if you were in rotate or scale. Now when you're selecting components, you may not want to have that manipulator in the way, so just hit Q. Q will exit out of any command that you have going on. Okay, so this is an edge. Edges are the edge of an object. So let's say I go back into object mode and I add 10 divisions. Okay, now each of these is still an edge. Okay, and then if you right click again, go to vertex, all of these little points where edges meet are called vertexes or vertices. A single vertex or multiple vertices, either way. And then you have faces. Faces are the polygons made up of edges and vertices. So 2 vertices equals an edge, and 4 or more edges equal a polygon. So, okay, that's how you select components. UVs and UV shell, we'll go into that in a later lesson. So let's back out of this. You can always hit Control Z to undo. Alright, so now we're back to just a standard box. So if I right click, go to face, and then right click, select all, I am going to hit Control E. Control E is the extrude command. If I adjust this thickness, it is going to go in or out. Now, the reason it looks like it's caving in is because it is. In this case, we want to turn keep faces together off. Your divisions should be 1. Divisions is the number of divisions that are being added in between that extrusion. So right there we've got 3 edge loops, 3 divisions. So we're going to turn that back to 1. And then thickness is how far in or out it goes. Now, you don't want to go in this case, because they will intersect and crush into each other. So if we go back and we shift, left click, select all of these faces. Okay, then we can go Control E again. Now let's adjust the offset to say 0.25. Well, let's go with something a little more. Let's go 1 unit, and then divisions 1. Okay, now offset will do exactly what it says. It will offset, basically add a border around the polygon. So now if I hit Control E again to extrude, and then I pull that thickness back, switch this to 1, now I have this. So that is extruding polygons. Now I could go up here, hit Control E again, set an offset of 1, divisions to 1, and then Control E again, and adjust the thickness so it's going up, set that to 1. So now I have a box within a box with a little little border down here. So that is basically the extrude function. And obviously you can move your edges. You can move them to wherever you want. You can move your components separate from other things. So say I want to scale in these vertices to make an interesting shape. Okay, I'm going to select those vertices, or vertices, sorry. I'm going to deselect that. Okay, now those are the only two vertices, or yeah. And then we're going to hit R. We'll scale those. Okay, and that makes an interesting shape. Right here we have a little bit of the polygons are crushing together, so that is something you would not want. It should not be doing that. I'm going to add a light and check this out. Okay, sometimes Maya will give you strange looking errors, but it actually renders fine. So yeah, so we're good. Okay, so I'm going to delete this light again. All right, so now next we have the bevel. So let's go in here. Let's bevel a couple edges. Okay. It's under your poly modeling tab and then bevel. And then if I go to poly bevel right here, I can adjust the offset. Now if you adjust the offset like that and have no divisions, that is basically a chamfer. Okay, and then if you add segments, that is a fillet, but it's all under the bevel command. So now we have nice edges there that'll catch the light better than these sharp, mathematically correct edges. So I can even go back in here and tighten that up if I want to, which looks even better. Looks more hard surface. Okay. And the last thing, as far as the basics go, to wrap this up, and then we'll do some more stuff in the next lesson, is your attribute editor. If you look over here, okay, let's go to object mode, select that one, we'll delete it. let's create another cube just for simplicity. Okay, this is a rectangular solid right now. If I want to make it a perfect cube, I can go here to the attribute editor and go over in my tabs, okay, over to Polycube, and let's say I want it 50 units by 50 units by 50 units. Now it is a perfect cube, okay? And you can adjust that over here in your attribute editor. Now you can also add divisions. Okay? You can also go in here and manipulate. Translate is move, rotate is rotate, and scale is scale, obviously. But you can go in here and you can set it up so it's zeroed out. So it's at the pivot point, which is right in the center of the object, is what determines its position. So right now it's 78 units off the grid. Now I just put it at 0. You can also adjust the scale in whichever axes you want. Say you wanted to rotate it by the numbers, 15 degrees or 45 degrees, and then later on you don't want that rotation again, you can set that back to 0, and there you go. So you can make more precise edits over here. So we can do that. And any edits that you make will show up in the tabs over here. So let's say I go to face. I'm going to select every other face here just for fun, and then I go Control E. Okay, so now I've made this extrude. Okay, if I go back to object mode, you'll see that right here under poly extrude. So I can add divisions after the fact. Okay, I can change the offset. Okay, I can change the offset and add divisions. I can change this thickness. So you can go back in and change these up after the fact. So let's say I go back to, say, 20. I'm going to switch the offset to normal. Okay, and then one thing you have to be careful of is if I go in here and say I go to the edge, I'm going to double click an edge to get an edge loop. Let's say I just select these edges, okay, and then I add a bevel to those edges. I'm going to increase the the size, add some segments. So now I have this object, which looks fine, but if I go back in here and say I go to my poly extrude, okay? If I want to add divisions, see what happened right here? It just destroyed that. Did not work well, okay? Now there are some edits you can get away with, but like right here, it destroyed that edge. If I add divisions, even worse. Okay? So you can really mess up an object by going in and making edits to those first. Yeah, like right here is an absolute mess. Making further edits after the fact can really jack up your object. So like here I went all the way back to that base cube and added divisions. Now it has no clue what's going on. It doesn't know what it needs to do. So that that is basically it for this tutorial. Next time we will go over the modeling toolkit and the grid. So join me next time.